And so I think it.
Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the headlines of this hour. US President Donald Trump has said he opposes any uranium enrichment by Iran, even for civilian use. Trump has added that he's unhappy with ongoing talks and has not made a final decision on possible military action. Former US President Bill Clinton has told the Republican-led House Oversight Committee that he did nothing wrong in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. He said he never visited Epstein's island and had no knowledge of criminal activity. Afghanistan's Taliban say that they are ready for dialogue after Pakistan launched airstrikes on Kabul and Kandahar, calling the situation open war. Meanwhile, Islamabad says the strikes targeted terrorist bases, while the United States nations has urged an immediate ceasefire. Meanwhile, China seeks to mediate after Pakistan declares open war on Afghanistan. Beijing calls on Islamabad and Kabul to stay calm and exercise restraint as relations between the neighbors plummet, especially after recent clashes as tensions rise. In a move aimed at de-escalating tensions, Sierra Leone said Guinea on Friday had released 16 of its soldiers and police officers arrested on Tuesday over construction of unauthorized border posts. Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi has fired back at China's continued criticism of Japanese attempts to reinforce its defense capabilities. He has said that China is top 4 defense spender, while Japan is not even in the top 50. US President Donald Trump has ordered federal agencies to stop using Anthropic after a dispute over military AI safeguards. The United States Department of Defense will phase out its systems within 6 months and may label the firm a supply chain risk. Meanwhile, AI startup Anthropic will sue after the United States Department of Defense banned its AI for military use. The company opposes mass surveillance and autonomous weapons and will challenge the supply chain risk labor in court. Now for this hour, we start with US President Donald Trump has taken a hard line on Iran's nuclear program. Trump has said that he wants zero uranium enrichment by Iran, even for civilian purposes. He has also made clear that he's unhappy with ongoing negotiations. These remarks come a day after talks in Geneva ended without a deal. While no final decision has been taken, Trump has warned that force remains an option. A significant U.S. military presence, including 2 aircraft carrier groups, is now positioned in the region. Iran denies seeking nuclear weapons and says any agreement must include lifting U.S. sanctions. Oman's Foreign Minister Sayed Badr al-Busaidi, who is mediating, says progress has been made and a deal is still within reach. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has designated Iran a state sponsor of wrongful detention, raising further pressure as more talks are expected. Let's listen in to the U.S. President.
I'm not happy with the fact that they're not willing to give us what we have to have. So I'm not thrilled with that. We'll see what happens. We're talking later. We'll have some additional talks today. Well, we haven't made a final decision. We're not exactly happy with the way they're negotiating. They cannot have nuclear weapons, and we're not thrilled with the way they're negotiating. So we'll see how it all works.
When you have that much oil, so I'm not happy with the negotiation. I say no enrichment. Not 20%, 30%. They always want 20%, 30%. They want it for civilian, for civil. I think it's uncivil. So I'm not happy with it.
Now we welcome Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at the situation, although the talks are supposed to continue now, but yesterday's talks ended without a breakthrough. How do you analyze the current frustration of Trump, and do you think that his patience is also indeed running low?
Yes, this is very difficult because in case of the Iran, if this is the civil purpose uranium enrichment, the 3 to 5% is enough. But Iran has already achieved 60%. So why Iran needs such kind of the high level of the enrichment, Iran hasn't explained well. So that's why even if the Iran say Iran will not possess a nuclear weapon, indeed it is clear that their action indicates Iran has the will to possess nuclear weapon. And indeed, in case of the enrichment, more than 20% Iran has already got a nuclear weapon. 60% is of course more than 20%. And if the Iran reach 90%, very sophisticated nuclear weapons they will possess. So that's why situation is very imminent. So even if the diplomatic negotiation has happened, and Iran tried to concede some, but anyway, without Iran change the policy drastically, the military operation is very imminent. Because the military operation will attack Iran's capability, so even if Iran has the will, it is very difficult to possess. But without a military operation, Iran has the will and Iran has the capability, both Iran has. In this case, Iran will possess nuclear weapon is very imminent under the current situation.
So, do you think that Iran and US can still reach a deal? We can only speculate here because both of them have been very stagnant or hardcore on their stance, right? US is saying zero enrichment. Iran is saying they have the right, and they are saying that it's going to be for civilian use, and they would let IAEA come in for inspections, but they won't cooperate on, or they are defending on their enrichment. What now then?
I think solving this issue through negotiation is very difficult because Iran has already reached the enrichment to the 60%, and Iran has ballistic missiles. And if the Iran continues their space program, in the near future, Iran will possess ballistic missile which can reach the United States. So it will happen within 10 years, or 7 years, 8 years, people expect. But if so, just before the 7 years or 8 years, it is more difficult to stop. Now is the time to stop. So that's why, view from this situation, the military operation is very imminent, and the negotiation is not going through so easily. And if I need to add some reasons why military operation is better than the negotiation in this case, because of 3 reasons. Firstly, if Iran possess, Saudi Arabia or other country will possess a nuclear weapon. And secondly, Iran's nuclear weapon is a threat against Israel, which is a very small country, and it is easy to destroy by nuclear weapon. And thirdly, if Iran possesses ICBM, that nuclear weapon will reach the United States. So after they possess ICBM, the United States cannot attack Iran. So that's why now it's very was the latest chance to stop all of these 3 worst case scenarios. So that's why America's will is relatively strong, and Iran will not concede. So that's why the military operation is very near, I think.
Thank you very much, Dr. Naga, for sharing that insight. Please do stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, meanwhile, the United Nations has expressed concerns on Friday over rising military movements in the Middle East. UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric has urged all parties to focus on diplomacy amid heightened tensions. US President Donald Trump has expressed frustration over stalled nuclear talks with Iran. Talks in Geneva has ended on Thursday without a deal, though Omani mediator Sayed Badr al-Busaidi has said progress was made. Trump has warned that force could be used, citing a major U.S. military presence in the region. Iran denies seeking nuclear weapons and wants sanctions lifted in any agreement. Let's listen in.
The Secretary General welcomes the continuation of the indirect talks mediated by Oman between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America. He calls on the parties to continue to work with determination and in good faith towards a lasting agreement. He also emphasizes that full and comprehensive IAEA verification is essential for any successful resolution of the Iran nuclear issue.
Now we move on. Canada has announced the temporary relocation of non-essential diplomatic staff and their dependents from Tel Aviv due to the escalating tensions in the region. The move comes as the United States weighs military action against Iran while Canada's embassy in Israel remains open. The government has advised its citizens in Iran to leave if they can do so safely. Canada has also stated that its missions in Lebanon and Palestine will continue to operate as normal. Additionally, the United Kingdom has decided to relocate its staff from Tel Aviv to other locations within Israel while maintaining that the UK embassy in Israel is still operating normally. Britain has closed its embassy in Iran and withdrew staff due to the deteriorating security situation. Meanwhile, Italy has joined Canada and the UK in urging its citizens to leave Iran and has further advised against traveling to Iraq and Lebanon. Now we welcome back Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for staying with us. You know, as now countries move, especially Canada, UK, and Italy, they move to relocate their citizens, especially the diplomats, from these regions as tensions rise. What do you think, what would be the right move for these governments to do without raising, more alarms? Because when we see these kind of statements, it's, of course, it always scares us.
Yes, they are preparing the war or U.S. military operation against Iran. So if the U.S. attack Iran, Iran will retaliate, and in this case, Tel Aviv could be the target, or countries around Iran, which is Arab countries, are also the target of the Iran's missile retaliation. So that's why they try to evacuate their citizens from these regions. And Canada, Italy, the UK, this country has a very strong connection with US society, and they can get much information about the US move. So that's why their move is faster than the others could happen. And so that this move indicates that they believe the military operation is near. And the view from the situation I mentioned a little bit earlier, there is a high possibility that the military operation is the only solution to stop Iran's nuclear missile program. Because if Iran possesses a nuclear weapon, this is very strong deterrence against the U.S. attack to Iran, and at the same time, if Iran possesses a nuclear weapon, Iran will be the leading country in the Middle East. So that's why this is quite attractive for Iran. And so that's why, and the view from the United States, how to stop it, just now it's only the timing they can stop. After that, there's a high possibility that Iran will improve their missile program, nuclear program. Iran has already reached 6% enrichment of the uranium. It is very near to become the very sophisticated nuclear weapons. So that's why, view from this, military possibility of the military operation is very high. That's why this country try to prepare the war or U.S. attack to Iran, and they ask their citizens to leave from this region. So that is quite a logical move.
And some analysts, especially our guests, say that Iran is doing so, or one of Iran's motivation to gain or to get a nuclear weapon is because they think that Israel has it. What's your take on that?
Of course, this is one of the motivation for Iran to possess a nuclear weapon. But at the same time, in this case, there is a gap between Iran and Israel. Israel is a small country. If another country attack Israel by nuclear weapon, it is relatively easy to destroy and eliminate from the earth. But in case of Iran, even if they are under attack of Israel or other or United States or other nuclear weapon, country itself is big and there is a space still Iran can survive. So that's why if Iran and Israel both possess a nuclear weapon, which country has the advantage is clear. Iran has the advantage, not Israel. That's why Israel tried to attack Iran preemptively before the Iran possessed a nuclear weapon. So that's why in this case, if Iran, not if in this case, Iran is planning to possess a nuclear weapon, I think. In this case, what is proper solution is before Iran possesses a nuclear weapon, Israel destroys the nuclear weapon program in Iran. Its solution built from the deterrence theory.
Yes.
So
Thank
because
you.
of the gap of the big landmass of their country.
Yes. Thank you for highlighting that and sharing that insight throughout, Dr. Nagav. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Asia. Pakistan has bombed major cities in Afghanistan and declared a state of war with its neighbor, sparking diplomatic support from Washington but raising concerns internationally. Pakistan's military targeted several locations in Afghanistan and Afghanistan's Khost and Paktika provinces, killing at least 19 civilians and injuring 26 people, many of them women and children. Both sides have reported heavy military casualties. Afghan officials claim to have killed 55 Pakistani soldiers, while Pakistan has reported 297 Afghan Taliban and troops who have been dead. Independent verification of these casualties are still remaining. Pakistan accuses Afghanistan of harboring militant groups, particularly the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, known as TTP, while the Taliban government denies these claims. Iran has urged both Afghanistan and Pakistan to refrain from escalating the tensions, while the United Nations chief has called for an immediate ceasefire. Moreover, China, a key player in the region, has also called for mediation, offering to help facilitate dialogue after Pakistan's open war declaration against Afghanistan. Now we welcome Ms. Shruti Dasgupta. She's an international affairs expert and analyst, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ms. Dasgupta, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at Pakistan and Afghanistan situation, how dangerous is this that the border clashes have escalated now, and Pakistan has said it's open war, while United States has, or President Trump has supported Pakistan's move.
Actually, you got it right the first time. He did endorse the attack. He said it is completely justified, and if he wants, he can interfere with it, but it doesn't feel like doing so because he's very happy with the general and his work that is happening there, despite UN claiming civilian casualties, because that doesn't ever feature into Trump's accounting. He wants the Bagram base, and he wants the assets that US military left there when they ran from Afghanistan under the pressure of Taliban. And so he's very happy that Pakistan is doing what it can to put pressure on the Taliban government, force it to a place where it is economically in a situation where it does a deal with USA, and USA gets its assets back. So that is the Trump angle. If you want to look at just the regional angle, it is not a very big issue for many nations, because only one of them is a nuclear power state, and even that nuclear button, which is in Pakistan's hand, is not entirely controlled by Pakistan, as most analysts would agree with. Even defense analysts as well as geopolitical analysts know that the red button, is not completely in control of Pakistan. It is handled by probably America. So there is no nuclear fallout for this. This is only a humanitarian crisis, because civilians obviously take the major part of the damage whenever a war is happening, specifically those in the border regions. Now, in this context, when there is a drone warfare happening, the casualties do not stay limited to the places of engagement of conflict, that is along the border. It goes further inside cities. So it's a humanitarian crisis. UN has come out, has spoken against it. China's if you read their first statement before the one where they say, okay, we'll mediate if you need us to, their first statement was they wanted both of them to practice restraint and protect Chinese assets, which is the bottom line for China. Protect my investment, protect my assets, protect my people, and then you two can go ahead and lock horns as many times as you want. Russia has offered, if both of them are willing, they could also mediate. But I don't think Taliban, who were very, very elemental in the departure of the Soviet armies, would ever actually go back to trusting Russia as a solid ally. So they would never probably consider it as neutral for any conversation. So this is all over with. Iran has asked them to maintain decorum in their fights, to kind of take it off this high escalatory levels. Whether it is going to last or not is, whether Iran is going to be in a position to speak about this is another conversation which you just had with another analyst, I believe. And it says that, it states that there is trouble moving in the CENTCOM region of America. What Pakistan is doing is America's dirty work in the name of cleaning out terrorist groups. They have not provided any proof of what they are claiming to be as terrorist sites. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is in its name a Pakistan origin group, which was a group of people who got offended by how America went and had done its operations in the early 2000s. So they decided to go against the state and the military at that time, who had adopted very mercantile ideology and tried to suppress Taliban or suppress Al-Qaeda and hand over, let America do its business in that region. So that particular outfit is born in Pakistan. Even Taliban was born in Pakistan. They were both bred there. They were both trained there. They were both considered as non-state actors that Pakistan used to do the dirty work for America, unfortunately. And now when they want when one has a sovereign nation to control and the other is trying to carve out its own piece from Pakistan, they find them to be terrorist groups. So it's funny when their good terrorist, bad terrorist technology and terminology fails, and they are unable to control the very same evils they've birthed, and they want to drag India's name into it, they want to drag everybody else's name into it, rather than acknowledge the problem that they were the ones who started with something wrong. If you're going to reap what you sow, and this is what Pakistan has come down to. So the regional conflict is going to be restricted just there. India is not going to engage in it unless Pakistan tries some misadventure towards its Indian side. We are not interested in that particular fight as such. We do condemn what Pakistan is doing in Afghanistan in the name of terrorism. We know exactly what it is. It is an attempt to weaken the regime in Taliban. We know it is an American-led initiative, and that's why the carte blanche given by American authorities. It is not as simple as just a conflict between two nations for us.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shruti Dasgupta, for joining us and sharing that analysis with us on NewsX World. Now we move on to South America. U.S. President Donald Trump has raised the possibility of a friendly takeover of Cuba. Trump has said the Cuban government is in serious financial trouble and is currently in talks with Washington. He has added that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is handling the issue at a high level. Trump has suggested that U.S. engagement could lead to a significant influence over the island nation. The announcement comes amid ongoing tensions and economic crisis in Cuba, with no details on timing or strategy. Let's listen in.
The Cuban government is talking with us, and they're in a big deal of trouble, as you know. They have no money, they have no anything right now. But they're talking with us, and maybe we'll have a friendly takeover of Cuba. We could very well end up having a friendly takeover of Cuba.
What about the votes?
After many, many years, we've had a lot of years of dealing with Cuba. I've been hearing about Cuba since I'm a little boy, but they're in big trouble, and we could very well, something good, I think very positive for the people that were expelled or worse from Cuba that live here. You know, we have people living here that want to go back to Cuba, and they're very happy with what's going on.
Now we move on to U.S. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton has testified for nearly 6 hours before the Republican-led House Oversight Committee in a case investigating his ties to late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Clinton has told lawmakers he saw nothing and did nothing wrong. He also said that he never visited Epstein's private island and had no knowledge of any criminal activity. A day earlier, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has also gave a similar closed-door deposition. Committee Chair James Comer has called the session productive, saying Clinton's answered every question. Democrats, meanwhile, are demanding that President Donald Trump must also testify under oath. Let's now listen into Bill Clinton's full statement that he gave on Friday's deposition.
I just finished testifying in front of the House Oversight Committee. I did it for two reasons. First, I love my country, including our Constitution. And America was built on the idea that no person is above the law, even presidents, especially presidents, and that we should all live under the same set of rules. This kind of democracy requires every person to play their part. And I hope that by being here today, we can bring ourselves just a little further away from the brink and back to being a country where we can disagree civilly and we can search for truth and justice, and that it outweighs the partisan urge to score points and create spectacle. The second reason I was there is that the girls and women whose lives Jeffrey Epstein destroyed deserve not just justice, but healing. They've been waiting too long for both. Though my brief acquaintance with Epstein ended years before his crimes came to light, and though I never witnessed during our limited interactions any indication with what was truly going on, I offered the little I do know in the hopes that it would help prevent anything like this from ever happening again. I also have to say something personal. Republicans made Hillary testify yesterday, and she had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, nothing. She has no memory of ever even meeting him. She neither traveled with him nor visited any of his properties. So whether 10 people or 10,000 people were subpoenaed, including her, was simply not right. So here's what I told the committee. First, I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing. No matter how many photos they show of me, I have two things that at the end of the day matter far more than any interpretation of 20-year-old photos. I know what I saw, and more importantly, what I didn't see. And I know what I did, and more importantly, what I didn't do. I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong. As someone who grew up in a home with domestic violence, not only would I not have flown on his plane if I had any inkling of what he was doing, I would have turned him in myself and led the call for justice for his crimes, not the sweetheart deal that we got. But even with 20/20 hindsight, I saw nothing that ever gave me real pause. We're only here today because Epstein hid it from everyone so well for so long. And by the time it came to light with his 2008 guilty plea, I had long stopped associating with him. When the video of my testimony today is released, I hope it will motivate everyone to go in front of Congress to say what they know. I hope it will motivate the Justice Department to finally release all the files and to ensure that this never happens again. The survivors deserve that.
Now we welcome Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for staying with us. Now, how significant is that Clinton's, both of them have testified, and they have pushed that Trump also come forward and testify? Dr. Nagao, you might be muted here.
View from the situation, which based on the information came from the media or the others, Bill Clinton was a clear customer for the Epstein's business. So he received the service of the ladies which kidnapped or the crime-related victims of the Epstein. And he met in many places, including Kramer Epstein visited White House several times. So that's why the problem is, did former President Clinton know crime or not? That is one thing. Another thing is, what kind of information was revealed to the Epstein? Because he was Clinton, former President Clinton was the president, means that he has a wide range of the secret information, sensitive information, and if he receives the service from the criminal Epstein, there's a possibility some of the information going to the Epstein. These are the very important and serious part of this relation between the former President Clinton and Epstein. So that's why this is important. But at the same time, this is under investigation. So that's why it will publish later, I think. But just now, the view from the many information already revealed, the President Clinton was clearly the customer of the criminal Epstein.
Yes. And Dr. Nagao, what more can you tell us about this situation that's still evolving? And although many of them have been called for subpoenas, not many have testified yet.
Testify is, of course, an important process in the democracy, but at the same time, it is not easy to reveal the new information through the testimony. That is the reason the testimony itself is important, but this time not published so well. And in this case, President Clinton's involvement in this crime is indeed politically exploitable, because this year is election year, midterm election year. So that's why even if this is originally purely testimony about the crime, indeed there is a political aspect, and this is important. So now both sides try to hold the testimony. Republican side, the involvement of the former President Clinton is important, and Democrat side claims President Trump should be part of the testimony. So involvement level is viewed from the information already revealed. It is clear that former President Clinton was a customer of the criminal Epstein, and in case of the President Trump, his involvement is not clear. But anyway, before the midterm election, the people think this incident as a political event. That's why even if the testimony's purpose is not political, indeed politics is very important in this incident.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Dr. Naga, for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you. Now we have a breaking news coming in from Cuba. Cuba has revealed new details about the attempted armed infiltration into its territorial waters that took place on the 25th of February earlier this week. According to the details shared by the Cuban embassy in the U.S., the incident occurred early in the morning with a naval target detected 3.7 nautical miles off of Cuba's coast. Cuban authorities initiated a strictly regulated response, beginning with identifying and pursuing the vessel, before opening fire in self-defense after being attacked. The incident resulted in 3 of the 10 occupants being killed and 7 wounded. The Cuban commander, Captain Yosmani Hernandez, was injured in the attack but is now recovering and out of danger. The attackers were found to have left Marathon Key in Florida with technical difficulties leading to a transfer of occupants to a single vessel. The boat was equipped with GPS radio navigation and several types of weapons, including high-caliber ammunition, a drone, and tactical equipment. Authorities also seized firearms and communication devices, along with identifying emblems linked to counter-revolutionary groups. The investigation has identified Amijail Sanchez Gonzalez as one of the organizers and Maritza Lugo Fernandez, a U.S.-based individual, as the mastermind of the attack. The detainees face charges of armed assault, illegal entry, and connections to terrorism and arms trafficking. Cuba's cooperation with the United States on Cuba's connections with the United States The detainees face charges of armed assault, illegal entry, and connections to terrorism and arms trafficking. Now we move on to tech news. Paramount Skydance's share have raised to 20% after Netflix announced that it would not match the former offer of $31 a share to buy Warner Brothers. Netflix's withdrawal has cleared the way for a Paramount-Warner Brothers deal. According to reports, the Warner Brothers board still has to vote officially to accept Paramount's offer. This comes as when Netflix shares jumped around 14% and Warner Brothers shares fell around 2%. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.